What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are enjoying the offseason. That is right. It is officially offseason mode around here. Do not worry. We won't be going anywhere, so make sure you do subscribe to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. We have a lot of things to discuss and a lot of things to figure out as it relates to this roster and decisions that they are going to have to make over the coming months. And one of those decisions has to do with the backfield. Look, I know there are a lot of people who are not fond of Dak Prescott. I'm not going to sit here and have that argument today, but I am going to tell you that if you are seriously suggesting that the Cowboys should trade him, again, I'm not going to argue with you about his talents or his merits on the field, but the idea of trading Dak Prescott from just a practical perspective is not realistic. So we can sit here, we can talk about whatever limitations or flaws or whatever Dak Prescott may have as a part of his game, but if you are suggesting over and over again that the Cowboys should trade him, you are not living in reality as it relates to his contract. Now, moving further back in the backfield, obviously the Cowboys have a lot of decisions to make as it relates to the running back position. This is an important offseason. The Cowboys have had Zeke Elliott, obviously, as their primary ball carrier now for the past 7 years, and that is probably going to change in some way, shape, or form. At the very least, the group as a whole is going to change. Obviously, this past season was much more of a split than we had seen throughout the entire Zeke era between Elliott and Tony Pollard. And obviously, there are a lot of Cowboys fans who want to see Tony Pollard be the featured back or maybe see the Cowboys move on. Not saying you want the Cowboys to move on from Pollard, but you get the picture. Now, to kind of set the stage, Zeke Elliott is in an important sort of contract position with the Cowboys. Tony Pollard is a free agent. Tony Pollard also reportedly suffered a fractured left fibula in the season-ending loss against the San Francisco 49ers, and that is expected to take about 3 months for him to fully recover from that. Unfortunately, is likely going to impact his earning power on the open market, whether it's with other NFL teams or the Cowboys. The Cowboys could, of course, place the franchise tag on Tony Pollard if they feel like that is what is best for them. So again, a lot of decisions, and one of them, again, has to do with Zeke Elliott, and it's really a decision that the Cowboys have to make or kind of make in one way, shape, or form. There was a report that came out from the Dallas Morning News on Monday night, about 24 hours after the season ended, how Zeke Elliott is reportedly willing to take a pay cut to stay with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll look at his contract situation in just a moment. I think this last part of the article is important. A foundation is in place for Elliott to sign a contract restructure that better aligns him with today's running back market. If there is one certainty about the Cowboys offseason, it is that Elliott won't be back under his contract as it is presently written, and he is on board with that. Let's take a look at Zeke Elliott's contract situation here. Now, you look at this. Obviously, the Cowboys signed Zeke to the deal that he is on back in 2019 before his rookie contract had even fully concluded. The $90 million deal, we don't have to relitigate that situation. This is the important thing. If you're somebody who doesn't follow the salary cap, parts of the NFL, et cetera, look at the column guaranteed salary. Now go all the way down. You see all those millions of dollars and get down to where we are here in 2023. This is the first time in Zeke Elliott's entire career with the Cowboys that value is zero. There are $0 left on Zeke Elliott's guaranteed portion, or in the guaranteed portion of his contract, which means the Cowboys can finally get out of it without really absorbing too big of a cost. Now, the Dallas Morning News article did note the specifics. It's about $11-12 million, depending where you want to approximate it. If you look at that second paragraph here, the Cowboys could release Elliott and avoid paying him the $10.9 million salary for 2023. Doing so with a post-June 1st designation, we hear that term all the time in the offseason, would mean Elliott counts 5.82. We'll call it $6 million against the cap this year, and we'll call it $6 million next year. That's why I said it's kind of about $12 million if you're averaging things. The Cowboys could do that and decide once again to split things up, and that way they don't take the full brunt of Zeke Elliott's dead money if they do cut him here in 2023. Why would they cut him? Why would the Cowboys move on from Zeke? Everybody brings this question up, or the idea of cutting Zeke, and the reality is that Zeke is just not the player that he was at the beginning of his career. And that's unfortunate. There are a lot of great times that the Cowboys have had with Zeke Elliott, but the production has been dipping all throughout his career. In fact, let's take a look at Zeke Elliott's entire career. Sorry, this is his season with the Cowboys. This is what I wanted to look at. These are two careers here, and it's not hard to determine who they are. The top half of what you're seeing is Tony Pollard's career with the Cowboys. The bottom half is Zeke Elliott's. Now, if we look at Zeke's for just a moment, I mean, the numbers that are bold, in case you do not know, are league leading. And so Zeke Elliott led the NFL in yards per game as far as rushing yards are concerned in his first 3 seasons in the NFL. It was incredible. Nothing ever touched that magical rookie season of 2016. But you're talking about for rounding purposes, he effectively averaged 100 yards per game when he did play throughout his first 3 seasons in the NFL. Obviously served the 6-game suspension in 2017. But people have noted this for many years now. If you look at that yards per game mark for Zeke Elliott in the rushing category specifically, it has dipped every year. 108.7 his rookie year down to 98.3, 95.6, 84.8. The huge drop off in 2020 to 65.3. Dropped again in 2021, although we did see Tony Pollard get a little bit more involved. That had to do with it, obviously, down to 58.9, 58.4. He did technically drop in 2022, although you're talking about half of a yard, not exactly a big-time deal as far as that specific thing is concerned. But if you look at Tony Pollard at the very top here, right? Tony Pollard yards per game, his rookie year, 30.3, 2020, 27.2. But again, we did see the Cowboys finally start to incorporate him a bit more last season, 47.9 yards per game, 62.9 yards per game for Tony Pollard in 2022. So we're talking about Tony Pollard averaged 4 more yards per game than Zeke Elliott, touched the ball from a rushing perspective 193 times this past season to Zeke Elliott's 231. And so this brings up the question, should the Cowboys move on from Zeke, right? And the Dallas Morning News article talked about the intangibles that Zeke brings, and there's no question that he does. There's no question that Zeke Elliott is a valued member of the Cowboys locker room. Again, he's been around for a long time, something I don't think we pay enough attention to sometimes. You might recall, obviously, that the Cowboys used to train, their world headquarters used to be at Valley Ranch before they moved to the Star. They moved to the Star in 2016. That was Dak and Zeke's rookie year. This is an entire era of Dallas Cowboys football. I'm not saying this is, hang a banner or anything like that. I'm just telling you the straight up facts about this. This is 7 years. It is an era, and Dak and Zeke have been the face of it all. Dak Prescott's the quarterback. I understand there are people who are not fond of him right now, given the events of last week, but he is much better at his position than Zeke Elliott is in our current moment. And so why would the Cowboys move on from Zeke if he is a valued part of the locker room, if he is a face of the franchise, if he is a face of this era? It's because he's not the same player that he was. And it's because the more Zeke is around the team, or a part of the team, I should say, the less opportunities there are for players like Tony Pollard. And look, it's uncomfortable to say this about Zeke because he has been such a great player for the Dallas Cowboys. I put this up a minute ago. This is Zeke Elliott's season here in 2022. All right, every single game except for the loss in Washington in the season finale, the regular season finale, which was a little bit meaningless. Obviously, the Cowboys played, but every single game had at least double-digit carries. Obviously, had 10 carries on the bookend in the season opener against Tampa and the season ender in San Francisco. So you're talking about double-digit touches going to Zeke Elliott every single week. And, first game of the season, 5.2 yards per carry. Awesome. Second game, 3.53. Then 4.87. Okay, so you're thinking things are really nice. There are these handful of moments in games where things looked a little bit, like the good times. But, I mean, these last 2 games, these are the 2 playoff games the Cowboys played. Zeke Elliott in Tampa, 13 carries, 27 yards, 2 yards a carry. 10 carries against the Niners. Obviously, Pollard got hurt. 26 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. You're talking about averaging 2.5 yards, and I'm rounding at that point, in 2 playoff games. That just is not enough. And I'm not going to sit here and say, the Cowboys should have used Malik Davis more. I certainly believe that, but I'm not going to make this argument about that. This just isn't enough. I mean, the game in Tennessee, and that was a bit of a weird game too. I'm willing to admit that. 19 carries, 37 yards. Fewer than 2 yards a carry. I mean, you're talking about Zeke only cracked 4 yards a carry. The last time he did was the barely win against the Houston Texans. And so, again, there is certainly value to Zeke Elliott within the Dallas Cowboys locker room, but his presence means a lack of touches for more explosive players. We're going to be having a lot of conversations in the coming months about how the Cowboys have to add, and we've already had them, right? On our post-game show, we talked about how CeeDee Lamb was the only explosive player on the Dallas Cowboys roster when Tony Pollard left the game. Zeke Elliott is not an explosive player. That statement alone does not mean that he does not present value, but the reality is that Zeke Elliott is not the player that he once was. And so the fact that he's open and willing to take a pay cut, hey, that makes sense. But at what cost are you having him around? And I don't mean a financial cost. And that's a whole different question than the question of, are you going to bring Tony Pollard back? Again, the fractured fibula has a big piece to do with this overall conversation. Maybe you get Pollard back on a 1-year deal. Maybe that's the franchise tag. Who knows? But the Cowboys have to figure this out. I think we all think the Cowboys are going to be a little bit more, or they're going to continue to be run-oriented. We'll see who their offensive coordinator is, if it's Kellen Moore, if it's not Kellen Moore. But the Cowboys have a lot of decisions to make in the backfield specifically. Zeke Elliott, I do think this is interesting. Now, I want to get back to the Dallas Morning News article here. 1 second. This line, again, the last line, if there is one certainty about the Cowboys offseason, it is that Elliott won't be back under his contract as it is presently written, and he is on board with that. This report from the Dallas Morning News came out on Monday night, again, not even 24 hours after the season ended. It is very significant. This is a little bit of speculation on my part. It is very significant that this came out not even 24 hours after the season officially came to a close. We have known for a long time that this offseason is a fork in the road for the Cowboys because of that zero that we talked about, the no guaranteed money left on Zeke's deal. The moment that Zeke Elliott signed this deal with the Dallas Cowboys, what will be 4 years ago this August, we knew that we were going to get to this point in 2023 where the Cowboys were finally able to move on. And again, if the Cowboys do cut Zeke, if they designate him a post-June 1st cut, they could effectively save $6 million against the salary cap. Maybe you're thinking like, that's nothing, whatever. That's significant. For a team that doesn't like to spend a lot of money in free agency, that is a helpful amount of change that you can use for this, that, or the other. There are pros to bringing Zeke back, or to not moving on from Zeke, I guess is the better way to put it. But his presence does diminish the opportunities for explosive players out of the Cowboys backfield. And that is an important piece to this team getting better in 2023. So we'll see. My guess right now, if I had to guess, and I'm guessing what the Cowboys would do here, I'm guessing that they will bring Zeke back on some sort of rework deal, and they probably get Tony Pollard back on some sort of one-year deal. Again, whether that's the franchise tag or not probably depends on his health. We're all rooting for Tony Pollard. That goes without saying. And I think the Cowboys kind of try to run this back. I know there are a lot of people who want to see the Cowboys draft Bijan Robinson and things like that. That just, I don't personally see how they're going to make a dramatic change in this particular area, but we will see. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. You can send me an email, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. You can leave a comment here. We'll get to those also. Make sure you subscribe to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. We are on the way to 20,000 subscribers here on our channel. We are so thankful to all of you who take the time to join us. We have a lot of plans in store for the offseason, and unfortunately, that's where we are, the offseason. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you next time.